Started. What's going on, everybody? Eric Garcia here, back with another video. I'm here with my special guest today, Eric White. How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. So we connected about a month and a half ago
Yeah.
on Instagram. I knew you from I met you in Wes Watson's program. That is a coaching program that we've joined um, fairly recently. When did you join Wes's program?
Oh, I started Wes's program about last year on August. I started with his first month, which was about like 3,000, and then for the rest of the time it's been like 75. And then it wasn't really so much about the money for me. It was more about perfecting my craft and then really just finding out who I am as a person and how much limits can I go. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like there's always a chance to level up. And then if I feel like I'm plateauing, I always feel like I want to be able to reach out and be like, okay, how am I going to get to the next step? And sometimes that's when a mentor comes into play. And then that's when I ended up finding Wes Watson on his YouTube channel. And then from there on, the way how he spoke, how his mindset was, I had to gravitate towards him and then just see how his style was and try to implicate it, not in terms of like just, exact, but just into my lifestyle. So that way I can show other people that they can do it as well.
Amazing. Yeah. The mentorship is very important. I think Wes Watson, if you guys don't know who Wes Watson is, Wes Watson is making about $30,000 a day minimum, about 3 million a month. So I think, yeah, 3 mil a month. So he's doing really well. He's a coach, he's a mentor of ours, and so much respect to Wes. Shout out Wes Watson. And before we get into all that, because I know you just laid out some gems, and we want to get more information about you. So what we'll ask you is basically, what is your story and how did you get here?
All right. So again, my name is Eric White, and then my brand is called Influential Fitness Journey. And then I go by the 4 Bs, which is to begin, believe, bravery, and become the best person that I could be for myself, because I knew I had to work on myself because I had low self-esteem, less confidence. And I wasn't able to be out there as much as people would say. I was always just the quiet kid in the background, just like minding my business, doing what I'm doing, but then not really socializing. So I was more antisocial. So I didn't really bring out of my shell. So that's one of the problems that I had. But to start it off, if we're talking about from birth, my life had almost ended before it even started. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when I was born, based on the information that I got from the medical records, is that I was having a stroke
Wow.
as a newborn baby. And the crazy part was that it had gotten so bad that it did damage to my brain. And until this day, I still have what is called an acronoid cyst in the frontal lobe of my brain, which is right here, which is not doing any damage. It just happens to be there. But since that happened, growing up, the learning process in school was a little difficult for me. It was like very, very slower than usual because as a baby and as you're developing as a child, you're still growing. So the process for me was still like slower than like an average baby would be. So I've been into like special ed stuff like that. I always felt like I was out of place, and then again to bring back the antisocial. So I always felt like I wasn't like normal kids. And then even before then, like to see that I gladly survived, which was, amazing, that the hospital that I was in didn't have the equipment to save my life. So they actually had to take a chance to transfer me to another hospital facility so that way they can, do the procedures or what needed to be done. So there was almost a 50% chance that I wouldn't even make it, but by the grace of God, I did. So right then and there, when I think about it, I felt like that there was a purpose for me to be here.
Hmm.
And that's just one of the best things about like when I live today, and then know that um I'm able to help people, especially with the struggles that I faced in the past. There should be like really no excuse because my life literally almost ended before it even started. So
Yeah. That's wow. Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible story because at such a young age, you don't like you're not conscious of that, right? Like you don't remember that, but the fact that that's who you are, like that is a part of your story, that man, that just makes your story that much more important, especially on the side of impacting other people because you know how easily you could have not been here, right? And so you take that you're grateful for that. And so I could feel that, and I appreciate that. And I respect that a lot. Um,
Yeah.
so, so did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, because honestly, like the way I never thought of it, because I thought I was normal at first with the kids and stuff. But then again, when it came to schooling, I always figured that there was something off about me. Like, why am I not concepting like the rest of the kids? Why do I feel like I'm falling back? And then that's when I actually went to my mother and asked her, like, why am I in these certain classes and I have to go to these specialists and stuff? And then that's when she brought out the truth about what happened. So that's really what led to me by asking questions at a young age and be like, okay, this is what happened. This is why you are where you are. But of course, she never saw me and never wanted me to know that, because she didn't want me to feel like I was different, even though I already kind of had that in the back of my head, like something's off. But it's just like, you don't ever know how to really explain it because you're still growing as a kid.
I have a question. So how old were you, and what did you think at that point? Did you think the way you think about it now?
Oh no, absolutely. Like, I mean, I feel like I thought about when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old, I started to think like, okay, something's off, but in my head, but I was never able to verbally explain or express myself because I was still kind of like in my own like shell, in my own bubble, until I really branched out around middle school, where it's kind of funny because when I was in middle school, I was always an athlete. I was a basketball player, everything like that. But my struggle was gaining weight and looking like the part. And when I was in my classroom, in one of my special ed classrooms at one point, across the hall, there were two doors. One was the office, and then one was another door that my gym teacher goes in and out. So I was curious after class. I ended up going and knocking on the door. He opened it up, and it ended up being a weight room.
Mm,
So as soon as I walked in, he was telling me, hey, listen, I'm starting a weight room program to substitute for PE, because nowadays most kids don't even want to play ball. They want to sit down, be on the phone, talk whatever they want to talk. And then which is kind of hard to believe, knowing that they're kids who doesn't want to play sports.
yeah.
But he was telling me, like, hey, listen, like, you want to come in and do this as well, you could get extra credit. And I was like, fine, because at that point I had to look in the mirror at age 12 and ask, like, this was age 12, look in the mirror and tell myself, like, I can be more than this. Like, this is something that I can't live on anymore. Like, I have to do something about it. And then that's what gravitated me towards lifting weights 2 times a week. It was hard, but you know what? It taught me so much. And then there are so many times that people, even like some of my own family members, will tell me, like, listen, like, there's more to life than just the gym. And in my head, I'm like, you know what? You're right. But guess what? The gym is preparing me for life. It's preparing me to stay
Mhm.
disciplined. It's preparing me to stay consistent. It's preparing me to keep going when it gets hard. I apply those principles outside of life. It is no different.
Mm, yeah, yeah, you can learn a lot, especially in that weight room. When David Goggins says it best, I was listening to the interview with Joe Rogan, and when you get into that space where you're suffering, you're tired, it's hot or it's cold, and you do not want to be there anymore, that's when you really see who the fuck it is you are.
It,
Like,
it, it, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I had a goal. I had a purpose. I was willing to risk it all. I didn't care.
yeah, and it's amazing because that is not taught. No one teaches you to push past your limits. And so, tell me a little bit more about this coach or this, the teacher, and kind of the things he taught you. Because you said you learned a lot. You maybe explain about kind of what it is you learned.
Yeah. So when I meant I learned a lot, I meant like he really, like, shout out to him, Mr. Malay. He probably like retired right now. But when I was there, he showed me how to do certain weights. He showed me how to do proper form. He showed
Yeah.
me that, okay, you have to also eat right. It's not just about lifting weights. It's about, if you want to look a certain way, you have to eat. He didn't know too much about like the proper macronutrient stuff, but just getting a start of eating healthy, and then having to just go in, day out, like, okay, what works this type of muscle group and what isolates this, and then just learning and as I go, and then really just taught myself to just keep going and keep at it. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it was tough. It was hard. I felt sore. There were days that I didn't feel like going, but at the end of the day, it was just something that I always look forward to, because it was something that was helping me not only physically, but I noticed that there was just a mental change in my mind. So that's how I know, for me, it was more mental than it was physical.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people who get insane results, they say like Wes Watson, he says he only really goes to the gym for the mental side to really clear the mind and get rid of all that negative energy, especially from like the night before. Um, you did mention something that's very important, right? So like right now I'm talking about sleep and like getting rest, but let's talk about nutrition. You said nutrition is very important. I also believe nutrition is very important. I started seeing results for myself personally when I started really dialing in my nutrition. You and I had conversations about like macronutrients, stuff like that. Can you break down a little bit of basic information, like what are macros and why is that so important, and why is nutrition important in general?
Okay. Well, let's put it this way. Nutrition, first and foremost, is always important because we have two parts. We have macronutrients, which is your proteins, fats, and carbs, and then you have your micronutrients, which is your vitamins and your minerals. All that you need to live just for daily life. But if you're that type of person that either wants to lose weight, for example, you have to be is what we call is a caloric deficit, which is eating less calories than what you burn. So you need to burn more calories and eat less. And then if you want to gain weight, you have to have a caloric surplus, which is basically eating more than what you're burning. So it's just a matter of, again, depending on the person's goal, what you want to get done, you have to realize like, okay, where do I want to go? Do I want to eat more calories to get bigger, or do I need to eat less calories and burn more fat by working out even harder? Because I remember when we had that other conversation about when you wanted incorporated running, you had to
Right.
do the math and then be like, okay, listen, like, am I going to be burning more with the runs and eating less calories so that way I can stay lean? So those are one of the things that you always have to like really sit down and do your homework, because sometimes it's not always about just guessing. Like, you can eat the right and proper foods, but if you're not knowing like what you're eating and what you're burning on a daily basis, then it's not going to happen for you. And then in terms of the macronutrients, again, like I said, it's your proteins, your fats, your carbs, depending on what you need to get to where your physical goal is. But at the same time, it's also good for the mind as well, because it's teaching you the discipline, and then you have that type of clarity and you feel like you're aligned with yourself, that as soon as you step out, once you finish up with the gym, you're ready to take on the world and do whatever you want to do to pursue.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that a lot of people's goals, especially around fitness, is building lean muscle and losing fat. Like that's kind of for example, you were talking about earlier how you were a model, and like that's kind of the look, having a lean physique, being shredded up, but also having a good amount of muscle mass. And so, um, I want to dive a little deeper because you did mention, right, like calorie surplus, calorie deficit, and that's important. That's facts. That's science, right? It's just science. But what some people don't understand, and especially me, I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, is I used to be like, okay, let me track my calories. I'll have like basically a majority of my calories carbs, majority of calories fat, and then minimum protein. Can you talk about how important protein is to basically building up that sort of physique, building lean muscle and losing fat?
Yeah, so with protein, it's so much essential, especially because, as you're working in the gyms, you are constantly tearing your body apart. You're tearing your muscle fibers out. So basically, like after that, which is a great thing, but then after a while, you need to have that type of nutrients, which is proteins, that's going to hit what we call protein synthesis, which is inside the muscle fibers. That's going to help you repair those muscles and get leaner and grow little by little, because scientifically it takes about 4 weeks to build 1 pound of lean muscle mass. And then if you really want to lose a weight per week, it's about 3,500 calories per week in order to lose 1 pound of fat. So it's a lot harder to build muscle than it is to lose fat. So that's why I feel like for now it's so important for people to focus on, especially if they want to gain lean muscle, is to lose whatever fat that they have first, and then focus on building that lean muscle mass, because the fat is going to be a lot easier than building the lean muscle, because it's going to take a lot of discipline and a lot of time for you to get there, because a lot of people will literally quit, like say the first month, and then realize why they're not seeing results, because that type of muscle takes time to grow. It's not something that, think of it as like an investment. When you invest your money, you're not going to see $1 million the very first day if you're trying to build, like, say, generational wealth or anything like that. Anything that you want to do, it's going to take time, but it's a matter of having the right mindset to keep going, even when you don't see the results.
Dude, that's an incredible point, and I want to touch on that because what I've been realizing is people do not want to commit. I've been talking, so I've been starting coaching, and I'm trying to get people to commit to my coaching program. I'm offering different things like meal plans, challenges, 21-day challenge, supplements, and coaching and accountability and all these
Right.
things. And what I'm realizing is people want to get results, but they don't want to put in the work, and they don't want to commit to the work because yes, the first day going to the gym, it's cool, it's fun, you're feeling good, you feel the pump. Day two, you might be a little tired, a little sore, right? Day three, week three, week four, and then you're like, oh, I look the same, and I'm feeling more tired, I'm feeling sore, I don't
Right.
want to do this anymore. Tell me, tell me what roadblocks you see from your clients, for example, who maybe, or from people that don't want to commit, or people that don't want to change their life. How do you turn that around? Because there comes a point in someone's life where they switch, and then for you guys watching, if you're at that point in your life, hit us up. We're always like, I hit up Eric and I asked him about my macros, and he was boom quick to help me out. Like, we are here to help you, but you have to commit and you have to do the work. And so, can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So again, for you guys that are listening, and I need you guys to listen very carefully, is you have to realize, like, for us trainers, we can tell you everything that you want to hear that sounds good, but at the end of the day, it is your decision. So always realize that, if you're not making that decision to change, that's basically telling me that you really don't want it. And that's just straight how it is. Everyone's always looking for the easy, quick fix to get the results, but sometimes the quick fix is not gonna work out for you, and then you realize that life gets harder for you. So when I see a client and then they or a potential client, and they ask me they need help, but they feel like they don't want to invest in the time, I literally will ask you, like, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, are you the person that would listen to you or get any type of advice from? And if you are hesitant to even say anything, that is right there is giving you an answer that you need help, but your pride and ego is so high right now is that you don't want to listen to nobody. And then realize to point the finger at someone because, oh, this person didn't want to help me. No, you didn't want to help yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cutthroat. It's black and white here. That is one thing I've learned because and and we can give out all the advice in the world. We can say like, here's my workout program, here's my exact meal plan. This is exactly what I eat. These are my macros. This is what I do. And it's not the education issue, it's the application issue. And that's
Right.
the part. Can you correlate maybe these two things? What it means to be someone that actually does what they say. They don't just talk about it, they be about it. But then also how that correlates with actually being a man and achieving your dreams and your goals.
Right. So again, like I said before, like, you have to be a person of your word. Like, it's not even just between men, women, whatever. It's just being a man of your word and committing to yourself. And then again, like with people who are like hesitant about signing up with the training because they feel like they're in a scam. Sometimes, like, me, I'm not really too fond of selling, but you do realize you do have to sell yourself in order to, you
Yeah.
know, provide the information. Like, for example, with like my clients, and like I even said with you, when you asked me about like your macronutrients and stuff like that, you're not one of my clients. I happily were able to answer you right then and there, because to me it wasn't a sell point. To me, it's like, okay, this is a person that needs help, who is actually trying. Why would I not try to give a little bit of service to help them out or help you out, instead of the person that's like just looking through it, and then when I'm ready to say, okay, let's get it going, and then they stay quiet. It's like, okay, you don't really want it, so you know why are you wasting not only the time that I could be helping someone who really wants it versus the time that you could have gotten it done. And this is just really what it is. Like, it may sound harsh, but I rather tell you the truth, because again, love ain't lies. I'm gonna tell you, if I love you as a person to the point where I see that you can have potential, I'm gonna tell you what it is. If I didn't, I wouldn't say anything.
Dude, and that's so true because everybody has the potential. They have like it's the biggest people, the fattest people who are in such a wrong place who have the most potential because they have the most weight to lose. They have the most potential gains left on the table. And and I've seen it, and I've seen it. And so shout out to the people who have been in that place, who I've been in that place. I've been in a dark place where I'm like 45 pounds overweight, changed my fucking life. And if I can do it, you guys can do it. I'm not special. I was in college, I was broke, I was drinking, I was horrible
Right.
life, horrible habits really, and changed it. And so anybody can do it. And I think you're very right on that point. It's why am I wasting my time helping someone that doesn't want to be helped when there's time for someone else, when that time can be used for someone that does want to be helped. And I think
Right. They're
that's the
willing to
frame.
put in work, and they're willing to at least try to do it rather than just saying it. And
Yeah,
that's, I feel that's a lot of times that people are wasting is like they're saying it and they actually and they look at all this information, YouTube and stuff, and they trick their brain thinking they're actually being productive, but they're not actually applicating it after they watch whatever they're watching. It doesn't even matter if it's fitness, it could be financial, it could be anything that's going to try to improve relationship if you're trying to improve. But if you're not applicating it outside, then you're either going to stay in the same or it's going to get worse.
that's that's the difference. That is the difference. It's just actually doing it and putting in the work and failing. I know for me, lately I've been in my new business, I've been in the fitness, in the nutrition space, and immediately I got home from Texas. I was able to be at an event where I was shaking hands and talking to the most successful people in this space. And I'm like, wow, like I'm talking to the 1% right now. I'm in the same room as the 1%. And I know I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right room. Except the one thing they said, and one guy at the top, he said, he's on stage, he said, now everything may be good here. The one thing you guys have to do is on Monday morning, it was like a 3-day event. On Monday morning, I need you guys to go out and do everything you wrote down in your notebook. Actually do it. Because if you don't do it by Monday, Tuesday's going to come around. You're going to forget about it. And then boom. And that's how people do it. And it's crazy because, man, it's so easy. It's so easy. It's just doing it, just step by step. And I think, I don't want to sound like an asshole here and say like, oh, it's easy to get success, this and that. No, it's the easy part is the steps it takes. The hard part is being okay with failing and doing it, failing again, and keep doing it because you're gonna realize you get that feedback loop of a failure that turns into a lesson. That lesson is gonna turn to growth. That growth turns into another failure, and then you kind of
Right.
go like this. The part where I think people kind of get mixed up is when you fail and you don't learn from it. When you don't learn from it and you keep making the same mistake, you keep kind of going back to the bad food. You keep stop working out. You keep staying inconsistent,
Right.
going to the bad friends. Can you talk to me a little bit about how important it is to be surrounded by these people? I talked about being in the right room, and I know for you probably growing up, especially doing things like modeling and fitness, you're around a different type of people that are modeling. That takes serious work. You have to be in shape, you have to be fit, you
Right.
have to look a certain way. People in fitness, you've got to be dialed in. What's it like being around these type of people compared to the average Joe?
Well, let me put it this way. Even before I even got into the modeling at 19, this was when I was in college at Berkeley. Before then, I was around a lot of drug dealers, a lot of bangers, a lot, it was crazy in the neighborhood. And I've been around that for 15 years. So for me, it was a very change. Like, okay, listen, I need to get away from this type of environment. It was me, my mom, my little brother, and I was telling my mom, like, listen, we got to get out of here because even though I was cool with them and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, once you have like that type of vice of liquor in you, and then you start to see that things can go a wrong turn, like literally. Like I have literally, like I was just actually on that block earlier today to see how it is, and it's disgusting. And I'm glad I left it because now I'm seeing on the walls of so many people that I knew passed away, literally,
Wow.
like that didn't even at least hit age 21 yet, which is
Mhm.
kind of crazy. So I knew I made the right decision for moving out. And then once I got into the modeling, and then for that, there are a lot of again, it's all diverse, a lot of cultures, but for people like, you have good people and then you have the ones that are like, sneak behind your back and try to, because they're, they think it's just all for them and not like helping each other out. So in that industry, it's a little different because there are people who want to just always try to one up you, and you have others that want to work with you. So, it just really just depends. And then in the fitness game, of course, when you're dialed in and you see all your fitness, your bros and things like that, you feel motivated. There's no comparison to either or, because at least with the fitness game, they help you grow. In the modeling, it's one or nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
Literally, it's cutthroat. Like it's disgusting.
Wow. That's interesting. We might have to run another podcast back and just specifically talk about that because I have well, we'll talk offline because that's an interesting conversation. But I want to keep this about, other people and mostly fitness right now, and then we can dive
Right.
into that later. Um, so I want to talk about those type of people, right? Like let's say the gangbangers or let's say the average Joe, because in my opinion, like you said, like you've seen some people that names are on the wall, they had to pass, right? And I
Yeah.
see some people working the 9 to 5, stuck in the corporate job. I mean, they passed away too, because they're a slave now. They're dead, right? That's the rest of their life. And so, um, what advice would you tell these people? Because what I say is this: I say if you want to change your life, you change your body, you change your mind, and then you change your finances. Those three things will change your life. If you focus on one, you'll change your life, and those usually will lead to the other. So, like for example, I started with my mind. I really started with my mind, just seeing life differently. Like you kind of said, I knew I was different from day one. Like growing up, I mean, physically, like color wise, like growing up in a predominantly white school, I knew I was
Right.
different. I looked different. But then growing up, being in a mixed, household and a mixed school, mentally wise, I was different. I would hang with different people. I would get different ideas, different perspectives, and um, I was just that guy. And so for me, learning my mindset and developing it into and becoming a man of principle, really, and developing principles that I follow, that I stick by, because I want to be a man of my word. I am going to be successful. I am going to do whatever it is I say I'm going to do. Until that point, it starts with mindset, right? Then it's body. Now it's like, okay, now the thing that's in my control is my body, how I look to the world. Let's control that. Lastly, what's out of my control, finances. Yes, I can build up obviously the market, XYZ. That's another conversation. How what do you tell people when you say like it's time to change your life? Or when they ask you, I want to change my life?
Well, again, like I said, so the first thing what I would say is, again, it all comes back down to the mirror. You have to literally look yourself. You have to really like look deep within. Like, are you really happy with where you are in life? So it all starts with the mindset, and then again with people being the people who you surround yourself with. Sometimes they don't realize, like, it may seem like the norm, but it's like, you're setting yourself up for failure. So sometimes you have to think like, okay, how am I going to switch from this position to having a better life? It all starts with the mindset. No matter what you want to do in life, you have to do your research. You have to be like, listen, you have to realize that it is not okay to be where you're at. You have to be honest. Honesty is first and foremost, number one, because people are always dishonest, thinking it's okay, but it's really not okay. And
Yeah,
then for the second part, again, changing your body, which is also a great thing, because it builds that, like how I said, for me, it taught me to be consistent, taught me to be dedicated, taught me to be, stay stay bravery, like stay strong, because of how hard it was. I still kept going. So again, that's a teaching right there. And then you feel better, not only physically but mentally as well. So that's another enhancement. And then financially, there are some times where I feel like you do have some control over it, and there are times when you don't. But that's when you have to put in the work to get into that financial state that you want to be in. So it might be from something as little as, like, okay, starting an Uber thing, because that's what I see nowadays. And then they just do that for a while, and then they build themselves up to where they feel financially comfortable to start something else, whether it's a new business, whether it's whatever the case may be, go to school, whatever, it all depends on what you want to do, but you're going to have to want it starting with here first and being honest with yourself. That's really what it is. Because everyone is nowadays is lying, thinking like, okay, and then they show this shit on Instagram too, thinking they're showing all the glamour, all this other extra, and then realizing that's not really your world, because you're living in a world on social media, but in reality, after you get off that phone, you realize that shit is not what it seems to be. You're just looking for the clout for it because you're trying to escape reality.
right. Yeah. Every what we say is social media is fake, and I'm okay with that. That's just what it is, and everybody should always be careful when it comes to that because we're not consumers, right? This is for social media because we're producers. We're helping people and we're using it as a tool. Um, when once they get into that little rabbit hole, it's dangerous, man. It really is. So I really like how you mentioned that, and I think that's valuable advice for people. And if you guys are listening, man, like hit us up and really, I mean, that the way you said it was perfect. Look in the mirror and see it. Would you take advice from yourself? And
You have to be honest. And then again, back with the social media thing, people always say that it's evil, but it's not. Remember, social media is social media. It's how you use it
Yeah.
like for us, we use it to motivate and encourage people, and then you have other people who are just showing crazy stuff or whatever, and then it's just like, you know, a whole bunch of nonsense of thinking they're living their best life, but really they're not.
And you know, it's funny because I heard this great little perspective, and they said like a lot of them like let's say a mom or whatever, right? They say like, oh, social media is bad because it's a distraction, this and that. The reason they say that is because when they use social media, it's a distraction for them. I mean, I love social media. I say it's a good tool. It's for marketing. It's for getting exposure, getting clients, closing sales. Like I see it's amazing because I use it as a tool when other people will, you know, use it as an escape or a distraction, like you mentioned.
Because like I said, it's how you use it. You either it's how you either use it or you abuse it. One of the two.
Bang, right there. Well, I love that. Let's segue here into my last question, man. This 40 minutes went by really quick. Let's
Didn't feel
I
like
really
whatever.
want to I know, right? I really want to talk to you about what your plan is moving forward. You know, I know you have influential fitness. Can you maybe talk about that and what you're planning, what's in the works?
Well, for influential fitness journey, it's just to, inspire as many people as I can. That's really the main journey of this because again, where the name came from, influential fitness journey, it applies to me based on my own journey from almost having to die, back then to struggling in school, feeling like alone, antisocial, to now finally like able to build my character and become the best person that I can be, and now I'm able to personify that teachings to others so that way they can wish to learn. And then, hopefully their people and their families will want to do the same as well as they see the not only the physical improvement, but just the spiritual mindset, self-improvement, like, because energy is a big thing. And then people can just sense that, when you're in the room.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, like and I like how you mentioned that too. It's beyond the fitness. Like the fitness is great because it looks good and everybody like that's kind of like the shiny new toy.
Right.
The real work is what went on behind the scenes and what it's done to the mind and then the relationships and everything is a catalyst. And so just everything gets better, you know? Like if you're right, your world will be right. So that's an amazing
That's
point, man.
that's what it is, brother. At the end of the day, it all comes down again, like being honest with yourself. You know, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to change? Not only for you, but for your family as well. Or you could even be that person to break that cycle because if it's something that you've been, having your family struggle, on an ongoing history, why can't you be that, breaking cycle to lead by example? And show
Right.
that you don't have to be that way. There are other ways to do so.
Oh yeah, big time. Well, let's wrap it up here, man. What is your final message to the people at home watching and you know what would you say to them?
So this is what I think. So for my final thing for you guys is listen, like no matter what people say to you, if you feel like you need to want to improve your life or do something better, and they're telling you the complete opposite, where you might think like, okay, scarcity might come in, or you're seeking that type of validation. Don't worry about that because at the end of the day, you are walking your own path and it is your own journey, not theirs. They could come to wish to follow, or they could just simply step aside so that way. Because at the end of the day, you're the one walking that path alone.
Oh yeah, you live alone, or you come into this world alone and you exit it alone. And so, I mean, not to end on a grimace note, but hey guys, he's right. You know, find your people, make a change, positive, scalable change, and then I mean, man, the rest is yours. You decide how you do that. Do you want to quickly shout out your social